I wake up to the sound of raised voices in the living room. Henry's tone is sharp, laced with irritation. You had no right to confront Mom like that. I swing my legs over the side of the bed, bracing myself for the confrontation. No right? She's been treating me like a servant for years. As I enter the living room, Henry's eyes narrow. Marge sits on the couch, lips pursed, her arms folded across her chest. The tension is palpable. Emily, dear, Marge says, her voice dripping with saccharine condescension. I was only trying to help. You know how forgetful you can be. I bite back the retort on my tongue. For 15 years, I've endured Marge's constant criticisms, her backhanded comments about my homemaking skills. But today's insult was the last straw. Henry steps between us, ever the peacekeeper. Mom, you should have called before coming over. Marge waves a dismissive hand. Nonsense. I'm family. Emily knows I'm always welcome. My jaw clenches as I remember her surprise visit this morning, her snide remarks about the unmade beds and cluttered kitchen. As if I don't work part-time at the grocery store to help make ends meet. Henry, I say, my voice strained, can't you see how she treats me? He sighs, running a hand through his thinning hair. She's trying to help, Emily. Maybe try harder to get along with her. My shoulders slump, defeat washing over me. Marge smiles, victorious, as I retreat to the bedroom. How can Henry not see the truth? Later that night, as we're getting ready for bed, I muster the courage to speak up again. Henry, your mom needs boundaries. Her constant criticism is exhausting. He pauses, toothbrush in hand. Emily, she's family. We have to make allowances. I open my mouth, but the words die on my lips. Arguing is futile when he's blinded by misguided loyalty. Marge has him wrapped around her finger, and I'm powerless to stop it. As I drift off to sleep, a seed of resentment takes root in my heart. How much longer can I endure Marge's intrusions before it destroys my marriage? In the weeks that follow, Marge's visits become more frequent and invasive. She barges in unannounced, criticizing everything from my cooking to my cleaning skills. Even the way I parent our teenage son, Mason, isn't spared from her relentless scrutiny. Emily, dear, you really should add more spices to your meatloaf, she'll say, wrinkling her nose in distaste. It's so bland. Or, honestly, this house is a pigsty. When was the last time you dusted? I try to brush off her comments, but they sting like paper cuts, leaving me raw and bleeding inside. Whenever I muster the courage to talk to Henry about it, he dismisses my concerns. She's just trying to help, he insists. You know how Mom can be. As if that excuses her behavior. One evening, Marge arrives just as we're sitting down for dinner. Mason groans under his breath, already anticipating the impending criticism. Well, if it isn't my favorite family, Marge announces, sweeping into the dining room like a tornado. She eyes the pot roast and mashed potatoes on the table, her lips curling in distaste. Emily, you really should learn to cook a proper meal. This looks dreadfully dry. My cheeks burn with humiliation as Mason stares at his plate, suddenly losing his appetite. Mom, that's enough, Henry says, but his tone lacks conviction. Marge ignores him, turning her attention to Mason. And you, young man, your room is a pigsty. No wonder you can't find anything in that mess. Mason's shoulders slump, and I feel a surge of protective anger. How dare she belittle my son like that? Marge, that's uncalled for, I snap, my voice trembling with barely contained fury. She feigns innocence, batting her eyelashes at Henry. I'm only trying to help. You know how forgetful Emily can be when it comes to housekeeping. Henry doesn't meet my eyes, and I know he's siding with her again. The familiar sting of betrayal slices through me, leaving me feeling more alone than ever. As Marge prattles on, oblivious to the tension she's causing, I catch Mason's eye. He offers a small, sympathetic shrug, and in that moment, I know he sees right through his grandmother's manipulation. If only Henry could open his eyes to the truth. Marge's manipulative tactics intensify over the following weeks. She whispers poisonous words into Henry's ear, convincing him that I'm ungrateful and undeserving of his support. She doesn't appreciate all that you do for this family, she'll say, her voice laced with faux concern. A real wife would be more attentive to your needs. Henry starts believing her lies, growing increasingly distant and critical of me. Our once loving relationship fractures under the weight of Marge's interference. One day, I notice my cherished bracelet, a family heirloom passed down from my grandmother, is missing from my dresser. I tear the bedroom apart, searching frantically, but it's nowhere to be found. A sinking suspicion settles in my gut as I recall Marge's envious glances whenever I wore the delicate piece. Could she have taken it? Henry, I say hesitantly that evening, I think your mom might have taken my bracelet. He scoffs, barely glancing up from his laptop. Enough, Emily. She would never steal. Stop blaming her for everything. My heart sinks at his dismissive tone. He's so deep under Marge's spell that he can't even consider the possibility of her wrongdoing. The next day, Marge arrives for one of her unannounced visits, that smug smile plastered across her face. As she embraces me, something glints on her wrist, catching my eye. My breath hitches in my throat as I recognize the familiar pattern of diamonds and sapphires, my bracelet. Marge, I say, my voice trembling with rage. Where did you get that bracelet? She feigns innocence, batting her eyelashes at me. This old thing? It's been in the family for years. The blatant lie ignites a fire within me. I've had enough of her deceit, her manipulation. That's my bracelet, I snarl, grabbing her wrist. The one you stole from me. Marge's eyes widen in mock surprise. Emily, darling, don't be ridiculous. Why would I steal from my own family? Henry rushes into the room, alerted by the commotion. What's going on here? Marge wastes no time playing the victim, of the tears welling in her eyes. Henry, your wife is accusing me of theft. Can you believe her audacity? I turn to Henry, desperate for him to see the truth. She's wearing my bracelet, Henry, the one my grandmother left me. But Henry's expression is cold, unyielding. Enough, Emily. Apologize to Mom right now. Marge smirks triumphantly as I stand there, humiliated and defeated. In that moment, I realize the depth of her manipulation and Henry's unwavering loyalty to her over me. As they embrace, a chilling sense of isolation washes over me. If my own husband won't believe me, who will? Shaken by Henry's unwavering loyalty to his mother, I confide in my best friend Stacy over coffee the next day. I don't know what to do, I say, my voice trembling with unshed tears. Henry is so deep under Marge's spell that he can't see her manipulation. Stacy's eyes blaze with righteous anger. Emily, they've been using your trust to manipulate you. It's time you fought back. Her words ignite a spark of determination within me. I've been too passive, too willing to turn a blind eye to Marge's toxic behavior. But no more. Stacy suggests reaching out to my estranged father-in-law, Bill, for advice. Despite his divorce from Marge years ago, he's always been kind and supportive toward me. Bill agrees to meet me at a quiet diner, his eyes filled with a mixture of sadness and understanding. I'm sorry you've had to endure Marge's manipulation, he says, squeezing my hand. She has a history of this kind of behavior. She drove a wedge between me and my other children, too. My heart sinks as he reveals shocking truths about Marge's past. Her lies, her deceit, her ability to turn family members against one another for her own gain. I tried to warn Henry, Bill continues, but he was always her favorite. She had him wrapped around her finger from a young age. Tears sting my eyes as I realize the depth of Marge's betrayal, not just to me, but to her entire family. Bill's expression hardens with resolve. It's time we exposed her true colors, Emily, before she destroys your marriage the way she did mine. With Stacy and Bill's support, a plan starts to take shape. We'll set a trap, luring Marge into revealing her greed and deceitful nature once and for all. This time, there will be no denying the evidence to Henry. A glimmer of hope sparks within me. Maybe, just maybe, we can break Marge's hold over my husband and reclaim our lives. As I leave the diner, determination surges through my veins. Marge has underestimated me for far too long. It's time to fight back and win. With Bill and Stacy's help, I devise a plan to expose Marge's true nature once and for all. First, I need to lure her in with a false sense of security. Marge, I've been doing a lot of thinking, I say, feigning remorse. I realize now how much I've mistreated you. You were only trying to help, and I lashed out unfairly. Marge's eyes widen, surprise flickering across her face. But she quickly composes herself, nodding sagely. Oh, Emily, I understand. Family can be trying at times. I force a smile, fighting the urge to roll my eyes. I want to make it up to you. How about you come over for dinner this weekend? A fresh start between us. Marge preens, basking in her perceived victory. Of course, dear, I'd be delighted. The next few days are a flurry of preparation. Bill slips me a sensitive financial document from Henry's workplace, one that details his secret investments and business dealings. With Stacy's help, I plant the document in a conspicuous spot in our living room. Are you sure this will work? I ask Stacy, doubt creeping in. She squeezes my shoulder reassuringly. Marge's greed will be her downfall. Trust me, she won't be able to resist snooping if she thinks there's something to gain. On the day of Marge's visit, I inform Henry about the misplaced document. I must have left those important papers lying around somewhere. We should keep an eye out for them. Henry frowns, but doesn't question me further. Little does he know, it's all part of the plan. As Marge arrives, I usher her into the living room with forced enthusiasm. Dinner will be ready soon. Why don't you make yourself comfortable? The moment her back is turned, I signal to Stacy and Bill, who are waiting in the basement with a hidden camera. They give me a thumbs up, and I slip out of the room, pretending to check on the food. Minutes later, Henry gets a frantic call from me. Honey, we're out of eggs. I need to run to the store real quick. Can you keep an eye on your mom? Suspicion flickers across his face, but he agrees nonetheless. As soon as he enters the living room, I motion for Bill and Stacy to hit record. The minutes tick by agonizingly slow as we wait. Finally, the telltale sounds of rustling papers drift through the hidden microphones. My heart pounds as Marge's greedy curiosity leads her right into our trap. This time, there will be no denying the evidence of her deceit. We return home to find Marge casually leafing through the financial documents, a self-satisfied smirk plastered across her face. Marge, what are you doing? Henry's voice is laced with confusion and betrayal. Her head snaps up, eyes wide with feigned innocence. Henry, darling, I was just tidying up and stumbled across these papers. I step forward, fury burning in my veins. Don't lie, Marge. We have you on camera snooping through private documents. Her bravado falters as Bill emerges from the hallway, Stacy close behind with the damning footage. It's over, Marge, Bill says, his voice heavy with disappointment. Your deceit has ruined too many lives. Marge's eyes dart between us, panic setting in. Bill, you don't understand. I was just trying to help Henry manage his finances. By stealing confidential information? I challenge, crossing my arms. We have proof of your true intentions. Stacy presses play, and the video begins to roll. We watch in tense silence as Marge rifles through the documents, her expression one of greedy curiosity. Henry's face pales as the truth unfolds before him. Mom, how could you do this? Marge's bottom lip trembles, and for a moment, I almost feel sorry for her. Almost. Henry, I did it for you, she wails, tears streaming down her face. Everything was for you, my darling boy. But her desperate pleas fall on deaf ears. Bill shakes his head, his jaw set in a grim line. It's over, Marge. You've manipulated your last person. He turns to Henry, his eyes filled with a mixture of sadness and resolve. Son, it's time you see the truth about your mother. The weight of Bill's words hangs heavy in the air. Henry's expression is one of utter devastation, like his entire world has been shattered. I need some time, he chokes out, retreating to the bedroom. Marge makes a move to follow, but I block her path, fury reignited. You've done enough damage, I snarl. Get out of my house and stay away from my family. For once, Marge is rendered speechless. She opens and closes her mouth, but no words come out. Finally, she turns on her heel and storms out, slamming the door behind her. An eerie silence descends upon the room, punctuated only by the sound of my ragged breathing. I did it. I finally exposed Marge's true colors, but as I catch a glimpse of Henry's haunted expression, I realize the battle is far from over. Healing the wounds she's inflicted on our family will be the greatest challenge of all. In the days following Marge's exposure, a tense silence hangs over our household. Henry is withdrawn, barely speaking to me or Mason as he grapples with the truth about his mother's deceit. I give him space, knowing this is a lot for him to process. His entire world has been turned upside down, and the woman he idolized his whole life has been revealed as a manipulative liar. One evening, I find him sitting alone in the living room, staring blankly at the wall. Henry? I approach cautiously, unsure of his emotional state. He doesn't look at me, but his shoulders tense at the sound of my voice. How could she do this, Emily? All these years. My heart aches for him, and I resist the urge to pull him into an embrace. He needs to work through this on his own terms. I'm so sorry, I say instead, the words feeling inadequate. I wish I could have protected you from her lies. A bitter laugh escapes his lips. Don't apologize. You were the only one telling the truth all along. Silence stretches between us, heavy and weighted with unspoken emotions. Finally, Henry meets my gaze, his eyes haunted. I need to see her, to hear her side of the story. Panic grips me at the thought of Marge worming her way back into our lives. Henry, I don't think that's a good idea. She'll only try to manipulate you again. But he shakes his head, resolute. I have to do this, Emily, for closure. I can see the determination in his eyes, and I know there's no dissuading him. With a heavy heart, I agree to set up a meeting with Marge. 2 days later, we gather in a neutral location, a small cafe on the outskirts of town. Marge arrives first, her face pale and drawn. When Henry enters, her expression brightens with a glimmer of hope. Henry, my darling boy, I knew you'd come to your senses. But Henry doesn't return her embrace. He holds up a hand, stopping her in her tracks. Save it, Mom. I'm here to get answers, not for your excuses. Marge's lip trembles, and for a moment, I almost feel sorry for her, almost. I did it all for you, Henry, she pleads. Everything was to protect you, to keep our family together. Henry's jaw clenches, and I can see the anger simmering beneath the surface. By lying? By manipulating and stealing from the people who loved you? Marge flinches as if struck, but Henry presses on, unleashing years of pent-up frustration. You drove Dad away, you nearly destroyed my marriage, and for what? Your own selfish desires? Tears stream down Marge's face as she crumbles under the weight of her son's accusations. Henry, please, I'm your mother. But her desperate pleas fall on deaf ears. Henry turns to me, his expression hardened with resolve. It's over, Mom. I'm done enabling your toxic behavior. From now on, you're out of our lives for good. As Marge dissolves into hysterics, Henry takes my hand, squeezing it tightly. In that moment, I know he's finally seen the truth and chosen to stand by my side. The road ahead won't be easy, but with Marge's poisonous influence removed, we have a chance to heal and rebuild our family on a foundation of honesty and trust. In the aftermath of Henry's confrontation with Marge, a weight is lifted from our household. Her toxic presence is finally gone, and we can begin to heal the wounds she inflicted on our family. It's not an easy process. Henry is plagued by guilt and self-doubt, questioning how he could have been so blind to his mother's manipulation for all these years. We seek professional help, attending couples counseling sessions to work through the trauma and rebuild our trust. At first, the sessions are tense and emotionally charged. Henry struggles to open up, his defenses still high from years of Marge's gaslighting. How can I ever trust myself again, he asks during one particularly difficult session. I let her control me like a puppet. Our counselor, Dr. Miller, is patient and understanding. Henry, your mother's behavior was calculated and insidious. She exploited your love and loyalty for her own gain. That's not a reflection on you. It's a reflection on her. Slowly, through Dr. Miller's guidance and my unwavering support, Henry begins to forgive himself. The walls he's built up start to crumble, and he opens up about the pain and confusion he's carried for so long. As for Marge, she retreats from our lives entirely. Word of her deceit spreads through the community, and she becomes a social pariah, ostracized by friends and family alike. The last I hear, she's moved out of state to be closer to her sister, the only person who will still associate with her. With Marge's toxic influence removed, our household regains a sense of peace and normalcy. Mason, who had been caught in the crossfire of the family drama, seems to thrive. His grades improve, and he becomes more engaged and social, no longer weighed down by the constant tension. And Henry, my dear Henry, the man I fell in love with all those years ago, begins to re-emerge, his warmth and kindness shining through once more. One evening, as we're enjoying a quiet dinner together, he reaches across the table and takes my hand. Emily, I owe you the biggest apology, he says, his eyes shining with sincerity. You stuck by me through everything, even when I was too blind to see the truth. I give his hand a gentle squeeze. We've both been through hell, Henry, but we made it to the other side, together. A small smile tugs at his lips, and he nods. I love you, Emily. Let's make a fresh start, just the two of us. As if on cue, there's a knock at the door. Henry frowns, but I recognize the familiar rap. It's Stacy, my best friend and confidant through this entire ordeal. When I open the door, she's beaming, holding a familiar velvet box in her hands. I managed to track down your grandmother's bracelet, she says, pressing the box into my palm. Thought you might want it back." Tears prick my eyes as I open the box, revealing the delicate heirloom that had been the catalyst for so much pain and heartache. But as I fasten the bracelet around my wrist, I feel a sense of hope and renewal wash over me. This piece, once tainted by Marge's greed and deceit, now represents our family's resilience and the bright future that lies ahead.